Dolomite health hazards. Should you be concerned? The health hazards of dolomite has been a widely discussed topic as of late. In particular, people are worried by the possible effects of dolomite exposure to the skin and lungs. But before we get to the health hazards of dolomite, what exactly is this mineral, and what is it used for? What is dolomite? Dolomite is a mineral with the chemical composition of CaMgCO3 or calcium magnesium carbonate. It's commonly found alongside deposits of limestone, and it is usually whitish or light brown in color. It is a relatively common mineral, and a lot of quarries process dolomite as it is a widely used mineral. What is it used for? Dolomite is one of the most common sources of concrete, and it's a very important mineral when it comes to building and home construction as well as road building. It also finds usage when it comes to producing magnesium. Dolomite is also widely used in metal processing, production of glass, bricks, as well as ceramics. In homes, dolomite is used as an ornamental stone. Gardeners also use dolomite dust or sand to help reduce the pH level of soil. It can also be added to aquariums to adjust the pH level of the water. Another use of dolomite is for livestock feed. It is sometimes added to provide calcium and magnesium, as well as a filler for animal feed. Dolomite boulders are also crushed up and used as a substitute for sand. Interestingly, dolomite has also seen some use as a health supplement. Because it contains both calcium and magnesium, it is believed that it can help people with low calcium and bone problems. However, most doctors would advise against taking dolomite tablets because it can sometimes contain lead and other toxic minerals. What are the possible health hazards of dolomite? Dolomite is generally known to be safe and non-toxic. This means that touching, or even inhaling dolomite poses little threat to health. It's referred to as a nuisance dust, which means that while it can cause some discomfort in a person's lungs, there is little harm that it can do. In contrast, other minerals such as silica can have a harmful effect on a person's lungs when the dust gets inhaled. This is why N95 masks are necessary in construction sites, as well as industries that handle and process minerals that can cause dust. In the Philippines, dolomite dust in particular has been deemed as safe by the Department of Health. This is mostly due to the fact that the particles are too large to be inhaled, and thus cannot irritate the lungs. However, some studies have claimed the contrary. And despite being considered safe, there is very little information found regarding the long-term effects of dolomite. What do other studies say? One study focused on 39 respondents who were part of a team digging and excavating a dam. They were tested alongside 40 other team members who were not at all exposed to dolomite or dolomite dust. They were interviewed and given a questionnaire to identify what possible effects dolomite exposure could have. In addition, they underwent chest X-rays, as well as tests to check their lung function. The researchers found that about 50% of the dust that the workers were exposed to comprised of dolomite dust. And among the workers who were exposed to dolomite, symptoms of wheezing, coughing, and increased phlegm were very common. The exposed subjects' FeV1-FVC ratio, or the number used to calculate lung disease, were also very different compared to those who were not exposed. However, there were no problems found when the X-ray results were checked. Their results imply that while dolomite did not cause any significant harm, there was some evidence to show that it is not as non-toxic as it seems. It is possible that exposure to large amounts of dolomite dust can potentially cause long-term lung problems. In addition, several safety sheets from building material companies advise precautions when handling dolomite. They recommended that workers avoid inhaling dolomite dust directly. Another safety recommendation is to wash any exposed skin after handling dolomite dust. But for dolomite sand, the safety sheets generally claim it as non-toxic and should pose no harm when touched or inhaled. Safety reminders: regardless of whether or not dolomite is harmful or not, it is still a good idea to try and practice certain safety precautions. In particular, exposure to dolomite dust can be a possible concern, so it is important to follow these safety reminders. When working in a place that handles dolomite dust or sand, it would be a good idea to wear an N95 mask to avoid breathing it in. It would also be a good idea to wear long-sleeved shirts to prevent possible irritation to the skin. As much as possible, try to avoid dusty areas. In particular, people with lung problems should avoid dolomite dust or sand if possible. Using vacuums when cleaning up dolomite sand or dust can also help prevent tiny particles from being inhaled. Proper storage and transformation of dolomite dust and sand should also be practiced. By following these tips, people can help ensure their lungs stay healthy and are free from any harmful particles.
The Department of Health assures the public that no untoward incidents will occur as a result to the use of crushed dolomite rocks as white sand in the Manila Bay coastline. The agency clarifies that dolomite is not known as a health hazard in its bulk state but can have harmful effects if it is in dust form, like any other dust particle. As stated by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the dolomite material that is being used in baywalk is 2 to 5 mm or 100 times bigger than dust, therefore does not get suspended in air, the DOE says in a statement. The Department of the Environment and Natural Resources admitted that its project to build an artificial white sand beach on the shore of Manila Bay was nowhere to be found in the master plan of the National Economic and Development Authority. DENR Undersecretary Jonas Leon said the beach nourishment project was not part of the state planning agency's Manila Bay Sustainable Development Master Plan. You are right that it's not in the long-term plan. It is not seen literally or spelled out in the NIDA Master Plan but in our desire, interest to fast-track, comply with the Supreme Court order. This is what we're doing to Manila Bay. The DENR official said the agency had to expedite projects from Manila Bay when President Rodrigo Duterte issued Administrative Order 16, which ordered the rehabilitation of the coastal and marine ecosystem and of the bay, in February 2019. The rehabilitation of Manila Bay began in January last year. If we pattern it strictly with NADA planning, it will take time. Leon said the beach nourishment are among the department's short-term activities which we believe will support the NADA plan in the long term. Manila Bay Sustainable Development Master Plan NADA is the agency tasked to formulate policies, plans and programs of the government and to review, evaluate and monitor infrastructure projects. The agency's master plan, which is intended to be conducted within a 22-year period that will end in 2040, includes 5 focal themes. Phase 1. Cleanup or water quality improvement. Cleanup of designated esteros and waterways. Reduce fecal coliform level and toxic discharges from houses and establishments by causing connection to existing sewerage treatment plants and requiring STPs for government, commercial, industrial, and educational establishments. Inspect and repair leaks in old sewer lines. Provide temporary sanitation facilities to informal settlers residing along esteros and shorelines pending relocation. Implement solid waste management. Start planning for the relocation of informal settlers. Phase 2. Rehabilitation and resettlement. Rehabilitation of old sewer lines in National Capital Region. Relocation of informal settlers. Ensure completion of 340 million liters of water per day of mainland and Manila water by 2022. Phase 3. Education and sustainment. Continuing education of citizens to protect against sustained law enforcement and monitoring. Fast-tracking or earlier completion of the sewerage system in Metro Manila from 2037 to 2026. Phase 1. Cleanup or water quality improvement. Cleanup of designated esteros and waterways. Reduce fecal coliform level and toxic discharges from houses and establishments by causing connection to existing sewerage treatment plants and requiring STPs for government, commercial, industrial, and educational establishments. Inspect and repair leaks in old sewer lines. Provide temporary sanitation facilities to informal settlers residing along esteros and shorelines pending relocation. Implement solid waste management. Start planning for the relocation of informal settlers. Phase 2. Rehabilitation and resettlement. Rehabilitation of old sewer lines in National Capital Region. Relocation of informal settlers ensure completion of 340 million liters of water per day of mainland and Manila water by 2022. Phase 3. Education and sustainment. Continuing education of citizens to protect the gains. Sustained law enforcement and monitoring. Fast-tracking or earlier completion of the sewerage system in Metro Manila from 2037 to 2026. Phase 3. Education and sustainment. Continuing education of citizens to protect the gains. Sustained law enforcement and monitoring. Fast-tracking or earlier completion of the sewerage system in Metro Manila from 2037 to 2026. House probed. The lower chamber's Macabean bloc filed a resolution seeking an investigation into the controversial white sand project following massive backlash from the public. The Macabean lawmakers cited the concerns of several groups and members of the academe over the project. Groups who have long been calling for a genuine rehabilitation of the bay said the ill-conceived project failed to comply with national laws and could potentially harm not only the bay's marine ecosystem but also communities in and around the area. Gia Katrina Cabigo. Ecosystem protection, upgrading of informal settlements, disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. Inclusive growth. Ultimately, MBSDMP will contribute to an equitable improvement in the quality of life in the Manila Bay areas where communities have access to safe, affordable, and formal housing as well as access to basic services and economic opportunities. The January 2020 version of the MBSDMP Final Master Plan Report read: the formulation of the MBSDMP commenced on January 10, 2018. It was expected to be completed by July 2020. Environment officials said the beach nourishment project was part of the bay's rehabilitation program as ordered by the Supreme Court in 2008. Government agencies began filling a portion of Manila Bay with artificial white sand made from dolomite. When it launched the program in 2019, the DENR said the project will be done in 3 phases.